Hello and welcome to another Reaconteur video, and in today's video I will be talking about why Deepwokens lore only gets worse as they continue adding new things and going over some more bad lore and inconsistencies within the game. Make sure to subscribe since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed. And also sadly there will not be a stream today because I'm busy, but there will be one on Wednesday, I promise. Now let's get straight into it. First of all, Bladeharper, recently added, is an insane addition to the game because the Deepwoken verse was just introduced to Bleach. Bladeharper provides you with the ability to flash step. Now this is important for a few reasons. First of all, we can see that the flash steps are all black and not slightly gray and black or white and blue, meaning that instead of Soul Reapers and instead of Quincy's, you are actually an Arrancar upon obtaining this oath, which means that Arrancars have been let loose into the Deepwoken verse without the Quincy's or Soul Reapers to balance them out, meaning that there is a huge imbalance of power within the three factions within the Deepwoken verse. This means that soon something major is coming. Without equitable balance in the universe, the Soul King would have to get involved if he even exists in the Deepwoken universe. And if he doesn't, then eventually all the souls in the Deepwoken verse will be eviscerated, leaving nothing but the song in its place. This is very bad. The Deepwoken world is in terrible danger because they decided to introduce Arrancars into the thing without Quincy's or Soul Reapers to balance them out. Anyway, another lore point that is highly relevant is the fact that Deepwoken players don't shower. I know, big switch up, right? Now this may sound obvious, but it's actually confirmed that in-game you don't shower either. Which, I mean, you don't really do it yourself as a character, but maybe when you're off your character showers? No. When watching your face at the fountains in Great Hive Aratel, a dialogue box pops up, and in it is stated that you realize that it's been a while since you were last able to wash your face with clean water. First of all, realize with an S is the British and Oceanic spelling of the word realize. Points taken off for being British. Second of all, ew! You're gross, you're nasty, you're disgusting. This confirms that Deepwoken players don't shower actively, and it only gets worse when we look at NPCs like the Lord Regent. We know he can't leave his chair, otherwise his power is significantly weakened, and he's been in that chair for like 500 years. And when he's wearing all that latex gimp gear, sweat is just gonna pool up in his clothing, which means the Lord Regent is probably also using his hypnosis magic to make the people of Etris nose blind to the absolute stench not only radiating off of him, but everyone else. You wanna know why? Because he may have even used his hypnosis to make people think that showers are bad or evil, which is why nobody takes them anymore, which is really important because currently, right, Deepwoken is in very olden times, pre-medieval dark ages with accelerated technological growth. If the Deepwoken world doesn't believe in showers, then it's quite possible a few things will happen. First of all, Etris is ruled by a monarchy. Second of all, they don't proper practice hygiene or oral hygiene. That means your mouth and your teeth don't have a dirty mind. Third of all, there are a lot of bladed weapons with a very small amount of guns. Deepwoken may be Great Britain in an alternate universe, or even just before modern day, in our real universe. Really think about it. Gun laws only became standardized in Europe in the year 1524, and then they were only completely standardized across the world in 1920. Currently, Deepwoken is in 1514, only 10 years before the first standardized gun laws were formed in Europe, but also before the official forming of England in 1707. This means that Etris may just be old ancient Britain before gun laws, which is why rifles and pistols are allowed for public usage. But also because of the accelerated technology, Britain hasn't become established despite the technology that we have so far. And it all checks out. Smelly people with bad teeth and too many weapons who are ruled by a king or queen and are attempting to take over the world. Just like King George III, aka the Lord Regent, who wants to control the world, which means that by 1776, the new Luminants will be freed from his rule, and his fall from power will happen in Deepwoken year 1820. And alternatively, instead of King George III being the Lord Regent, he will be the real King of Etris, who may come back to Etris, dethroning the Lord Regent, and invoking his new will of world domination as we know. Because from some lore in the game, he was a king of power and conquest who wanted to conquer. And I am in layer 3 right now, smoking on that lava flower with Plitsky, and it is giving me visions of the future. Deepwoken is ancient Britain, confirmed. Now, bit back to Bladeharper. I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I know I said it was an Arrancar progression, but it is quite literally completely ripped from Bleach, like just everything. Like you enter the world within your sword and then fight a clone of yourself to learn your sword's true essence. Look. I know the Deepwoken devs love anime references, and I know it's easy to rip something from popular Shonen Jump anime and manga series Bleach, but you guys cannot seriously be this down bad for content updates, because this is the most on-the-nose media rip we've ever seen. Like, you can't tell me that's not literally Zangetsu. Like, this happens in episode 73 of Bleach, and if you want to see the best episode of Bleach, watch episode 228. It's probably the best episode in the entire show. Regardless, this is literally just straight up taken from Bleach in every conceivable way, and they didn't even try and hide it. Now, I do think it's pretty cool, but wow, you guys are really just like really putting Bleach in the Deepwoken world, and then they're just gonna, you know, imbalance the soul count, so the entire world's gonna get destroyed. Next up, I want to talk about the Boltcrusher, the newest legendary weapon. First of all, last video I talked about Deepwoken's inflation caused by an excess of legendary weapons. First of all, I talked about in the last video Deepwoken's inflation caused by an excess of legendary weapons, and that's why the jobs board was introduced. And here goes the devs ruining the economy even worse by adding another legendary weapon, because they have to add one per week now. This weapon is stated to be the pinnacle of Ignition Union technology, which is to be used as both a tool for extraction of resources and a weapon to dispatch those who need to be forcefully removed from any given scenario. Now, this doesn't really make sense. There's a reason why in real life tools and weapons are generally not interchangeable in war. Have you seen the combat shovel back in World War I? That thing sucked. More than likely, this weapon is to be wielded similarly to a lumber axe, in which most of the way is at the end and you're meant to slide your hand down it to leverage it like a lever to do more damage to whatever you're cutting. This is also why axes break easily with poor technique. If you tried to use the Boltcrusher as a weapon, it would likely break really fast due to its poor weight distribution. And in combat, you're not going to be chopping a still target like a log. This weapon will break so insanely easily, so it's just a bad weapon. But not only that, this brings me back to the Railblade. I guess the Railblade was the peak of Ignition Union technology before this thing came out, but regardless, it was made enchantable after I made a video saying it doesn't make sense that the weapon isn't enchantable because it's not actually imbued with magic, it just has a little flamethrower attached to it that puts fire on it. In response, the devs made it enchantable, so thank me for that. So why exactly isn't this weapon enchantable? The Ignition Union doesn't really have the means to imbue weapons with magics and make them like legendary mythical weapons. That's why the Railblade is now enchantable because of lore reasons. It's not magic, it's technology. Just like this weapon. It isn't at all stated to be imbued with powers of the song. It likely harnesses energy through normal means like mini Tesla coils or something, and yet it isn't enchantable. Deepwoken devs gotta get it together. This needs to be enchanted because of lore. Either make it like some lore where it's actually using like Thundercall and it's a legendary weapon because it's magical, or make it enchantable. But I doubt that the Ignition Union are going to be harnessing magic when the entire thing the Ignition Union does is technological advances. There should be no magic here. And let's just say hypothetically the Ignition Union now has the godly means to replicate legendary weapons. Would this not be abuse of the song? We already know the drownings happened by the communist forces of the sea and the ocean to punish capitalist greed. Wouldn't replicating one-of-one mythical story of legend weapons that only exist a few throughout history and taking those and mass producing them and selling them be an act of abuse of the song, which would trigger more drownings? And by the way, it would also continue to make the economy worse, which we already know Etrus's economy is in shambles from my last video. Now, that just shouldn't be going on here. Like, really, how are they going to be making all these magical weapons? Which they can't, so make it enchantable. And if they can, then let's do some drowning. Let's get some more world events going on, because there's a need for a drowning immediately. Now, in the last lore video, I talked about why Deepwoken could be a prequel to Rogue Lineage, but it could also potentially fit in as a sequel, so why don't I talk about that possibility? Last video, I talked about how it was a probably prequel, and I also stated that, oh yeah, it could be a sequel. But I didn't actually go into detail on why it could be a sequel and what the chain of events to happen within Rogue Lineage would have to be in order for it to be a sequel. So let's talk about it. Assuming Dorgan is the Meat Lord, or the Dorgan brothers are the Meat Lord, or lords who are cosplaying as each other, pretending to be the same person, it is quite possible Deepwoken comes after Rogue Lineage. Given the fact that the Meat Lords are Dorgans, and Dorgans are all more multiversal level beings stronger than all of the drowned gods, they could do anything. So maybe K was an experiment done by Dorgan to see what he could do to try and preserve the rotting world. In Rogue Lineage, Gaia is destroying itself. We all know this from lore, but especially dialogue from Yalda the Tenebrae. Dialogue lines like, "Rot with this world, why don't you?" and "This world will be the pyre for its own destruction." These are important. Because if Dorgan loved his world and he wanted to save it, he knows that it's going to crumble in on itself and destroy itself. He would try his hardest to save what he loves, that world where he can sell food. In Rogue Lineage, the Tenebrae are basically just drowned gods, and they're the equivalent of drowned gods from Deepwoken. They're either ascended people who reach godhood, or they're born from a force known as the Unknown. But what if the Unknown and the Song are the same thing? Hypothetically, what if the Meat Lord and Dorgans, who I'll be collectively referring to as Dorgan from now on, decided to explore the Unknown in a desperate effort to save the world? And while exploring the Unknown, he realized its true powers and decided to use them and bend them to his will to create a new world under the power of the Unknown, which he now refers to as the Song. Now, previously the Unknown was known as the Unknown because of its strange magic properties, but he bent the Song to his will to create a large world with more people and technology, and that world was Deepwoken. Let that sink in. And why else would he be selling meat? Because he loved selling meat, and now there's monsters for him to kill to sell meat. K could have been his creation. And why would he have created K? As a prototype to Deepwoken's world. He created K as a much smaller version of the world, right? He created K, it's smaller than all of Deepwoken's world, but bigger than Gaia, because he wanted to see how large he could experiment with. So he kept creating worlds and worlds, and K is accessible by the players. But once Gaia and K crumble down onto each other, you have Deepwoken. And then he created the pre-Cataclysm era with the magic of the Song, which was newly discovered by him, and he gave it and passed it down to the people and gave them the means to access that magic. And then Politsky gets it, and then, oh my god, it all clicks in my head. I'm so right. And if you disagree with me, you're just wrong. I hope you guys enjoyed. Shout out to Cyberboy21 and Drizzy Drake fan and Goobpak2. I love you all. Hope you all have an amazing day, and goodbye.